Welcome to the extraordinary world of Strange Thing. Last week we had Marcus Kay showing his amazing work. Marcus, you will recall, is disabled. He's unable to speak. He has a condition not so dissimilar to that of Stephen Hawking, and we used an avatar to give him a voice. This week we are also using an avatar to give Strange Thing a voice, but for very, very different reasons. Strange Thing is a kind of underground hacker, artist, fashion designer who operates a little like Banksy. He remains anonymous. So we're going to use his voice to show you a presentation of his work, very exquisite and very precise and finely detailed fashion design. Strange Thing adopts a kind of strategy that he describes as the Mandela effect, whereby he tries to change the way in which we perceive history. He uses the example for the movie about where you get stories like mirror, mirror on the wall that have been handed down through history, but actually aren't accurate renditions of what was actually in the original movie. By changing things, you can distort things, you can distort the received way in which things are done. He works kind of combining the Renaissance with the modern day world of Nike and other forms of other logo. And he both uses Nike and uses in the context of Renaissance paintings to try and change the way we might see how Nike might have been, had Nike been around in the Renaissance. But equally, he uses it in the opposite direction. In other words, he's using some of the colors, the grays, for example, of Brunelleschi, we can see here in this particular very contemporary fashion design, to kind of distort the way in which we see the contemporary fashion. And as a result, we get this curious hybrid operation that has proved very, very successful, that has been featured on Vogue and elsewhere, and has made him into some kind of world leader in terms of pushing the boundaries of what we can do with AI. We're going to start off with a 5-minute presentation by Strange Thing using an avatar voice, explaining his journey with AI and his views about AI itself.
Hello, my name is Strange Thing, and I am an artificial intelligence fashion artist designer. I would like to share my journey with artificial intelligence and how I have explored this technology to create unique art that challenges our perception of reality. When I first learned about artificial intelligence technology's ability to produce images from words, I was intrigued and started to delve into programs like Diffusion. However, the results lacked emotion, depth, texture, and romance. It felt like we were years away from achieving the level of realism that I desired until open artificial intelligence, DALL-E 2, and stable diffusion came along, which was a game changer. It felt like we had already reached the PS4 level of graphics within months. Midjourney then took us into a whole new realm of realism, achievable with artificial intelligence. This led me to create my signature style of playing with time using artificial intelligence. I chose the Mandela effect to explain this better. For those who don't know, the Mandela effect is a popular conspiracy theory that suggests the timeline has altered, and only some remember the correct timeline we were once on. One well-known example of this is the famous line from Disney's classic Snow White, where the evil queen looks in her magic mirror and says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" However, that is not the true line. It is in fact, magic mirror on the wall. And some will argue this has always been the famous line. So to achieve my signature style, I transformed modern-day logos by placing them into the wrong era, specifically the Renaissance period and Renaissance-style masterpieces, to make people question if these brands have always been there throughout history. I wanted to affect the viewer's memory and have them question reality while exploring commentary on consumerism. Through my exploration of artificial intelligence and creating these masterpieces, I gained recognition from Complex, Hypebeast, and other mainstream media outlets, and went viral. It was apparent that a majority of those seeing the work also wanted to own these tracksuit outfits that appeared in the artificial intelligence oil paintings. By then, Midjourney was at a level where I could get close to real photorealism using prompts, but I still used about 3 different artificial intelligence tools on each piece to perfect it, and some post-production in Photoshop. With my background, it made it easier for me to achieve what I was looking for. I had flipped the Mandela effect on its head to create modern clothing that had essences of the Renaissance. I used my knowledge in Renaissance architecture, religion, use of textiles, dyes, etc., to achieve these looks, and to tell a story of what if those in the Renaissance period could see us now in the future and see items or styles they would recognize, but also merging concepts, textiles of our century to achieve new looks not seen in this time period. This hit a chord with many followers, and my posts went viral, even getting me featured in Vogue. However, it also came with its pitfalls, as many well-established designers started to attempt to copy any new concept that I put out using artificial intelligence themselves. The trending argument that artificial intelligence copies is simply not true. It's human beings that copy, and it always will be. The machine still acts on human input. It's a collaboration. In the same breath, I am happy that I am inspiring many to try artificial intelligence for the first time when they see what is capable through my work, even those at the top of their field. It feels surreal that I have become one of the driving forces for mainstream adoption of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is also a huge positive for sustainability. We can create photorealistic versions of concepts we have in mind and get a better idea if the concept works on artificial intelligence-generated models, which leads to a cutback on material waste. Artificial intelligence also reduces energy consumption by taking less than an hour to get editorial ready by a professional artificial intelligence artist in most cases, whereas creating 3D mockups can take hours or days to produce and still does not give you results achieved through artificial intelligence. I also believe that the merging of fashion and blockchain technology, NFTs, can lead to the absolute provenance of each piece, reducing the production of throwaway fashion. Limited runs or one-of-a-kind pieces can be cherished as works of art, much like those created by famous artists such as Andy Warhol or Banksy. I chose to adopt a Banksy-like approach to create mystique around my work, reflecting the mystery of artificial intelligence technology itself. Ultimately, it is up to the viewer to decide whether it is the artist or the art, the artificial intelligence or the human, that is the true focus of the work. Thank you for having me. Please go and experience artificial intelligence for yourselves. Hello.
Thank you, Strange Thing. The Banksy, shall we say, of AI art. Your work is exquisite, very refined, and you are setting high standards there. Remarkable, remarkable. So today we come to the third of our tutorials, the fourth of our sessions in this series, an introduction to AI for designers. And as we go through, we are gradually ramping up the level. So we start off with the very elementary and eventually we'll end up with the advanced. We have, following the tutorials, we have two more sessions, a Pecha Kucha session, and then a roundtable discussion where we will have figures such as Patrick Schumacher, Ros Lovegrove, leaders in the world of design, talking about their experiences of working with AI. So today then, we are very pleased to have Carlos and Ula here. This is the session that we'll be having today, and as I say, two more sessions before Pecha Kucha and the roundtable discussion. Just to kind of to give you the Instagram addresses, handles for those contributing today. Strange Thing, whose name we do not know, we don't even know how old he is or what indeed if he is has a really extraordinary website where he posts his stuff. Carlos, also Carlos Bannon, and Ula at Uzia, I guess you say. And then I've also included both mine and DigitalFutures Instagram accounts because we post all the information about all the upcoming events there. You can find us also information also on the DigitalFutures website and on the YouTube library, where every single thing that we broadcast is then uploaded to be available for free for everyone. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to democratize education by making ideas available all over the world. So today we are joined by two really quite distinguished designers. First of all, Carlos, who is Carlos Bannon, who is actually an extraordinary person in many ways. He comes from Alicante, studied in Alicante, both degrees, and still has a practice in Alicante. But he teaches in Singapore at Singapore University of Technology and Design, which of course is famous for AI because of Emmanuel Ko, one of the kind of groundbreaking experts in the field. And Carlos also has his own practice that is based in based in Alicante, alongside his extraordinary teaching. And I would just recommend having a look at his website, because some of his Instagram account, some of the work that he's producing on AI is really truly extraordinary. So he will be presenting first, followed by Urszula, who is really actually an interesting kind of success story, shall we say. Urszula is from Poland. She studied in Poland, then she studied architecture in Poland, then went to the UK and studied interior design. Now she's been a very successful interior designer. She is part of the Digital Futures Poland series team, and we will be having our first ever session in Poland, in Polish, very shortly. But more remarkable still, she has been using Midjourney to explore how you can generate various designs for Gulfstream aircraft and yachts and so on, and posting these things on Instagram. And as a result of this, has been commissioned to redesign some Gulfstream aircraft. This is an extraordinary, beautiful success story about what happens when you start playing with these tools and posting these things. But before we start anything, I would like to invite my colleague Angelica Ponzio, who's been really a rock in terms of the organization here, along with Gustavo and all the rest of the team in putting things together. Angelica has been over the last week testing out the new beta version of DALL-E, and she's going to show us a few very kind of quick views of what it can produce, bombard you with things, and then we'll move on to Carlos itself. I should also mention that things are happening very rapidly in this field, and on the 13th, in 2 days' time, we expect to see GPT-4 being launched. And what GPT-4 will do in terms of improving the level of performance of GPT-3, we don't quite know, but I'm sure it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So welcome, Angelica.
Hi, thank you, Neil. So I'm being invited to be part of this beta testers. So it's going to last like 10 days, almost over now. So the model is being improving, but it's not ready yet to go public. So I'm going to show some things that we are being testing. So I think this is one of the most important major differences about the quality of the images, especially when you go into faces or animals, and you can see like almost reality, right? And then, but hands are also still an issue. And cars and objects is just great. And one major thing, I think, is the classical test of the red cube on top of a blue cube. This is the previous model where we can mix things, and now it can get it right. So we can try it in architecture and even try with different textures. So it does understand most of what we are writing. And this is the previews, and this is the actual one. And just to show you, and also places. Like this is, I put it on Uruguay, and this is Chile, and it's quite what we can find in contemporary architecture there. But big names, I think they were erased. This is Zaha Hadid. It looks like an earthquake. But that's it for now. Let's hope it keeps improving, and I'm really anxious to get it all into public. Thank you.
Carlos, over to you. Carlos, as I say, is in Singapore. I'm very grateful for him. It's gone 11 o'clock at night in Singapore, and architects, of course, are used to staying up all night working anyway. My students used to have a T-shirt with saying, "You can sleep when you're dead." So, Carlos, welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me again. And yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be, even it's late. I mean, we are very used to staying late, doing what we love, what we like to do in the end, which is designing. And now it's very exciting with the new, very impressive way that we are introducing AI at different levels in design, right? So actually, the workshop that I am about to start changed a little bit over the last few weeks. I mean, this is really moving very fast. So we are responding to the new changes and new advances of the tools, and it's very fluid, right? So what I'm going to share today, first, I'm going to start with a relatively basic approach using Midjourney, in this case, applied to spatial design. and then we'll move to Stable Diffusion with ControlNet, which is very exciting. So I'm going to share the screen. Let me know if the screen is all right. I think it's okay. Yeah. So yeah, today's workshop is on spatial design workflows with AI, and basically, if I want to summarize in 2 sentences, I would say I would use Midjourney in early design stages, and I will go for when we have more developed designs using Stable Diffusion plus ControlNet. The first part, I coined it embracing uncertainty, navigating Midjourney with limited control. I'm starting off with some images of recent work that I did in Singapore, exploring 3D printing and additive manufacturing to achieve likeness and design freedom in space frames. So this is the Air Mesh Pavilion that was built at the Gardens by the Bay in Singapore in 2020. And it's part of ongoing research on lightweight structures. So when Midjourney, after the beta was open about July 2022, I started testing the possibilities of creating lightweight structures using prompt architecture. So at the beginning, prompts were, trying to explore what is the potential of this, trying to find the words, the ones that are triggering certain results that I'm interested in. So you can see here the very early images created by then, exploring that architecture where fabrics and freeform structures are woven. So, well, I mean, we're looking at text to image, so it's like more widely known as prompt architecture. So we look at the prompts that, for instance, one would do to create a lightweight structure. This is quite like there's a first prompt to somehow understand the basics of that, right? So it's like, well, we can create a first set for the prompt talking about the interior view and a reference to Janet Edgelman. So we'll trigger some references to her amazing work. Then choreography of one female dancer dancing, then architectural walls and fabrics, and then choosing a seat, quality, version, and proportion, right? So once we do that, now with Midjourney 4, we're getting this kind of outcome, right? We're having this already quite fine and articulated set of images. We can definitely develop the one that we want and keep operating. Then, of course, we have the second prompt. The second prompt allows to kick again in a different way. In this case, I'm adding a bit of more context here with the interior white resin museum with reflection. So there's a different tone to the same set of images, but now introducing more of the context, right? So, but well, I mean, we can also use weights when we are using the prompts. The prompts, of course, weight 3 will trigger more like the fabric itself, or here we're more focusing on the dance and flamenco dancer here, right? So going back to Midjourney 3, that was September 2022. These were the spaces that I was trying to create, right? So this kind of like a quite monumental, ethereal spaces. You can tell that the resolution and the style is still not very fine. Personally, I would say I'm quite fine when we don't get the detail that, for instance, Stranger Things can get. I mean, in architecture, we're looking at potentially something else that is not the fine detail, is the atmosphere, is the feel. And I think when we're working with Midjourney, sometimes these Midjourney 3 results were actually quite inspiring, even though they are not fully detailed, right? So those are the prompts that were used. So now going into Midjourney 4, we are blending, we can blend directly, let's say Midjourney 3 renderings or images produced with actual pictures to produce more complex ones. The feature of blending is relatively new. It's not very new, but relatively new. And the results are quite fast, and it's quite fun to explore working with that. Moving to a bit more complex, like prompt creation. Here, I'm looking at, let's say, pavilion structures. This pavilion is a relatively simple structure that everyone can make. I'm breaking down a bit of the prompt structure here into what I usually try to cover when I'm creating the prompt, which includes material properties, tectonics. The actual location can give some information as well to add more realism to the outcome. Of course, context, geometric properties, potential users, atmosphere creation, lights and shadows, and of course the seed quality and style. That will make a quite solid prompt, and results are those ones. If you follow exactly these instructions with the seed, remember that seed in Midjourney 4, you use the same seed, the results are going to be the same, right? So I think it's important to keep the seed in track, right? So you can keep evolving and knowing which prompts are making impact in your images. So here I'm looking at increasing the weight of braided and red color, and creates that kind of a structure. I'm gonna focus more on the creation of these cabins. It was a series that I did a few months ago. I'm revisiting here. And same things with the structure that I talked before about. Looking at long hotel cabins, cantileverings, steep, snow. So some prompts that are very clear in the geometry and the kind of architecture we're getting. We are looking at this set. So if I just minimize the window and go back to Midjourney, right? So we can look at the prompt and results that are achieved. So the quality of what we get using that kind of a structure in the prompts is relatively solid in just one or two attempts, right? As we know, we can create variations from the prompts using the V, and definitely now we can add kick to the prompt in a way that we can bias it towards like a more nuanced outcome. If we look at the evolution of this, going back to the presentation, you can see how blending quite nice results already produced in Midjourney with existing pictures of references that you may want to include in your design will create quite convincing outcomes, especially changing the point of view, keeping some of the properties of the geometry in fast, but also adjusting some of the materials and blending very well the two elements in the both pictures, right? We can see here outcome of changing the blending picture here. We're using only 2, it allows for 5, and then we can see variations and the control that we can start getting, right? I mean, when we combine this pattern in the texture, and it's quite clear for Midjourney to integrate it into the final outcome, right? So we're getting this very nice and fine textures in the facades while keeping the essence of the original Midjourney prompt. So if we move from Midjourney to Stable Diffusion, which is going to be the core of my presentation, Stable Diffusion allows to work with ControlNet, and as you know, you're familiar with, right? I mean, now we are able to integrate other elements into the making of the images. So the combination of automatic 111 plus ControlNet give us that control. On the top, you can see the Z map that can be used to create images, and below you can see how just a sketch can create a quite convincing avatar. All right, so I think everyone is familiar with the link here, Hugging Face, ControlNet. I recommend to install it in your system. So when you install ControlNet in your system, I'm going to bring it to my screen to right while minimizing this one. Take it as a second. So here we have Stable Diffusion with ControlNet. So I'm going to show some examples of how to use ControlNet in space making, especially interior space making. So what you're looking at here is we're looking at text to image. We are working with a relatively generic prompt like interior space of a museum with a polygonal roof. Strong direct light creates awesome lighting effects, concrete surfaces, reflective flooring. So there's not much thought about. It's just writing down some thoughts here and see what it gets. So this is the result. We're getting this rather generic museum, right? I mean, we gave some cues on the polygonal roof and concrete surfaces, reflective flooring, but it could be any other museum. So we're looking at one fixed seat and keeping seat 232, and now using CFG 17 and 0.0 ControlNet weight, which means it's not applied. Now we're not applying ControlNet, but ControlNet allows to apply progressive weight. So we can guide the prompt towards a geometric end that we want to control, right? So I'm going to increase by 0.1. Gradually, you're going to see that the sequence, right? Now we have ControlNet weight 0.1. So start to get a bit more clear, the geometry of the facets, but it's not still there. There's some columns here and there. Well, I mean, it's starting to show a bit more of that polygonal roof, but here we start getting a bit more of that. And I think especially you realize the horizon level start to drop, is getting to match more my point of view that I set. So I continue moving to 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, we're very close, 0.8, 0.9, and 1. So this is the actual design. And then you might wonder what is the difference between this and the original pose that we have seen before in Midjourney, or maybe the one we created with level 0. Actually, this is a 3D model in Rhino. So we're looking at the exact 3D model made reality with Stable Diffusion and ControlNet. So for us, if we look at Midjourney, we try to create something with not many control points, still like very atmospheric, but here we are defining an object already defined by a geometry in space, and we can use a Stable Diffusion and ControlNet to create the atmosphere and to enhance what we have here. So the process to do so, in this case, I'm using the Z depth. Since it's a 3D model, we can create the Z depth map for the image, right? So if we get our Rhino 3D model, this our space is a relatively simple 3D model created with some skylights, and then inside you can see what we have, right? It's a very simple geometry. I think it will take just a few minutes or even seconds if you're skilled to produce this 3D model, right? So the nice thing of this is that modeling and rendering now, the time that you can spend here is dramatically reduced. I mean, we don't need to start working with V-Ray, apply texture, UV maps. You can have just this. What we created here is the ZD map, and then with the ZD map, we can create images with ControlNet. I'm going to start varying now the CFG. As you know, we can vary the CFG. If we move it more to the left, you will get this more plain look. So it depends on the style you want to achieve. Usually you can play around with the CFG values, but also you can increase to create a bit more extreme effects, right? So I think you can actually enhance to the extreme and create this kind of images. This 30 is the highest value you can use for CFG, as you know. So this is the range in which you can move with this image, and the prompt that. By the way, I'm going back to the first slide, right? I'm using the same prompt here. It's the same prompt, the same words here, now applied in ControlNet. So that's the big difference. So moving forward, you can see here the differences between moving across seeds. So now it's the same CFG, the same ControlNet weight, but here we're changing the seed. So you can identify seeds that can work better for your outcome. See how the sky is a bit different here, or the lights are a bit more sharp here. So when you identify one, you can stick to that seed and progress in the development. So for instance, I take this one here, 11232. So I can move forward with that and then start to modify the atmosphere. So the next prompt is going to change, is going to add artificial light. So this is going to be directly changed to artificial light, including night interior in the prompt, starting to work with indirect light, or even the process of the light, the source where it's placed. Here, I'm working with a warmer color of the light. So you can see here, it's getting a bit like in the yellow color tone. And also here, I'm creating more atmosphere, introducing rain, pouring rain nights, warm lights from below. So start to work more to create the atmosphere that I want. We can go even more extreme And we keep the geometry as it is, but we can create even warmer atmospheres and change the material to wooden walls, red lights on the walls forming a pattern, for instance. This is what we get. I can take this one again. I will start modifying the seeds then. So now keeping the same prompt, but modifying the seeds, I'm navigating again through different scope of possibilities. I can choose this one here and continue moving forward. So as we can see, this still fluid. There's many ways that we can keep moving through the process, but the possibilities are amazing when we can control the geometry and the point of view to that extreme point, right? So here, for instance, we're using rainbow light, different conditions for the light, and here I just change the point of view, right? So here I change the point of view, and then I can get an updated representation of that interior space. So going back to this, right? I mean, the principle here is to work with very, very lightweight models in Rhino and to create a very quick rendering. I can select the point of view anytime. So this is impossible to do with Midjourney because you never can control exactly the geometry as you want to, not even the point of view, right? So that's kind of extremely amazing to be doing it with AI, right? So then in this case, I'm using V-Ray as the software to run the set depth map. So I create the set depth as a layer here. So when I render, somewhere will appear, yeah, some window here. So when it renders, it will show the depth. So this image now is a Z depth map. So we can see here the different intensities created from the 3D model that can be saved. One place here. So then when we use ControlNet in the interface, we need to first to enable it and then drop the image that we get created here. So we can go with the image we have just made here for the museum. I think this is the one, the workshop here. So this is the image, right? So already processed. So we don't need to pre-process the image. We can use directly one of the modules that we can use here, the depth. We can also use scanning. We can probably explore it later if we have the time. So with depth, we can use this as an information for that prompt. So you go back to the prompt, original prompt that we had, and try to stick close to what we did, but we don't necessarily need to do the same thing. But I can try to reproduce this interior space, a museum. Right light, with the drawing, with walls. Let's try just with this. I'm gonna go with 12 for CFG, should be quite okay. For the image resolution, we try to match the resolution or the proportion at least of the map to guarantee the results are okay. So when we go below here, we need to do the same, right? So let's go for 124, close to 8512, it's okay. So now we need to control the weight here. It's like 1. So actually we're using weight 1. So we can go to lower values. We can see the effect below in the, I mean, we have seen the effect before in the slides. So now we're gonna generate. I'm using very little sample steps, so I can definitely increase. So when you run this, we're getting this information. Will be very soon. I just restarted. In the meantime, since the time is a bit limited, let me run you through other iterations. So, well, I mean, you can apply this to different contexts and different objects in architecture. Here was revisiting my build work. This is a 360-degree house that we did in Madrid, Spain. There are pictures of the real object, and then, well, this is what I produced with Stable Diffusion. Because we have the 3D model of our design, we can create a Z map, and then we can create directly different versions of the house under different conditions. So we can experiment with materials, we can experiment with context, or even other kind of light conditions and so forth. We can change the point of view. You can make as many as you want. You will create very nice results and unexpected windows as well. But you can, of course, post-produce in the end, right? So this is kind of possibilities that you can do. So you go back to this one. The samples were very low. You can tell that the geometry is kept, but of course the quality is not fantastic. I can increase the samples, and then I can redo it again, and I start getting a bit better results. But the workflow is following the pattern of using in this case, I'm using only one control model. We can use more than one control model, but here I'm showing just one simple effect of biasing the outcome, introducing the set map, and it's very, very effective. Now you can see results here and how we can definitely achieve a quite good quality with matching the geometry from the 3D model. So moving on. This, for instance, I mean, I also target, like with these, like we can allow our students in design studios to test certain concept ideas, and sometimes the function is not very clear. They're working with some geometry and some geometric exploration and openness in the program. So Midjourney can help create the atmosphere. Let's say this one could be the roof for a train station, so the mood will be completely different, or could be like more adjusted to the airport or different functions, right? So that's something that we can easily do. Apply backgrounds, change materials in no time. So this also was an exploration I did with the work by Philip Schroeder. The previous examples, I have the 3D models, so I created a ZD map with V-Ray. In this case, the ZD map is created directly by Stable Diffusion. To do so, it's relatively easy. We can get the picture of what we want to do. Let's say I want to take this one here, and then we can pre-process the depth. So then we're going to create the image here. This is the map that we can use to guide ControlNet. So following that, simple and super elegant architectural visualization created by Philippe Schroeder that has been always like source of inspiration for many architects, could be also a source to create variations and keep inspiring, keeping the simplicity of the geometry, but now exploring around texture and other parameters that can affect materiality, can affect scale, can affect context. So for proto projects and very early stage architectures as well, could be a very good way to trigger opportunities in terms of materials and tectonics and fusion of architecture and nature. So I think in the interest of time, I think I am.
Carlos, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Did you try the other models on the ControlNet? Where I have you said image, text to image, image to image, extract in
Yeah. I tried also with the image to image. You can still use ControlNet. Of course, you're going to have an image and a prompt and ControlNet. So at some point, the constraints are there. So you need to release some of the weights here. So my experience when you're working with ControlNet and image to image, you have one bias here. You have the prompt itself, and then you have ControlNet. So it's well, you have also the combination of two ControlNets, which is actually quite interesting. But my experience working here is to reduce the weight, allows for more exploration around the image-to-image prompts. Yeah.
Because I've been using the one on Hugging Face, and then you give the image, and then you just do all the outlines, and then but this one that you show, if you upload just the depth map, the results are much better. Maybe because Hugging Face is not as professional as this one.
I mean, there's different ways also. I mean, I tried working with not just the depth, also the canny, right? So it's also a possible way to work by using ControlNet. So there's different ways you can extract the contours, and with the contours you can create images.
But do you think the results are better with the depth map or with the lines?
I think to me it's depth, because the information is more two-dimensional, so it allows for more precise translation of the prompt into geometry. What I'm exploring now is to combine both, combine 1 and 2, right? So we can do 2 control models and then start working with both to bias in different weights. But of course, we need to calibrate weights on that, because as I said, if the weight is very strong here, and then we're using image to image, at some point there's not much space, for variation. The variations are very subtle, and there's not much change based on my experience working on that recently. But I feel like this, while working with ControlNet is a completely different way to working to Midjourney. Midjourney, I would say, opens more, and then here it's already, when you lock something as the geometry and some other variables, allows for a deeper exploration, but with many constraints already set.
Yeah, thanks. That's great.
Carlos, please take your time. Don't feel rushed. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I could go through. I mean, for instance, if I may, I mean, this is showing a bit of like the 3D models, right? To let you know that this is 3D models that are coming from a real project. So it doesn't need to be ultra developed. Here's just the massing of the project, and the nice thing of having the actual 3D model is that really allows you to make real-time changes. Getting the ZZ map is just almost immediate, right? So the translation, the workflow from here to here, it takes just a few seconds. So that, I mean, we can always automate it directly with the script, but I think it's as fast as it can be. And then the other way, as I mentioned before, right? You can get from, I'm doing it right now. I'm gonna go with, let's say, any of the images here. So even I can go with, maybe I'm gonna take this one.
You don't have to upload the image, just the depth map.
Yep. So let me just go back. I think this did the wrong drag. So when you drag image here, right? So in this case, right, I mean, working with the contours wouldn't give you information on much information, right, of how the slope or even this detail here. Well, I mean, working with the depth already processed, I'm going to increase a bit of resolution here, and then we can get a bit more information about how these changes, right, this kind of change of ground. Of course, it doesn't replace the precision of the ZZ map that we can create with Rhino, but we can get our pictures, our even our old or Midjourney images and process them here to create something, right? So that's kind of the power of working with this ControlNet tool. Maybe if I work with so I mean, going back a bit quickly to Midjourney, maybe as a wrap up, right? I mean, the explorations, recent explorations like done with blends, allows for something still quite open-ended. Let me just go back to the latest series that was here. So there was an attempt to introduce directionality into the lighting of the space. So as you can see here, there's a clear direction in the lights. There's a clear sense of where the light comes from and how the atmosphere is achieved. if you go to the prompt here, let me just show you the original one here. So it's a blend, and then we'll look at the pictures. One of the pictures, the main picture for the prompt is this one here. So we can always, in Midjourney as well, try to bias some sort of geometry by introducing a strong geometry in the image. But in this case, it's not just a Z map, it's a proper image with textures and elements that can be transferred somehow with blends. I find it's a way to somehow control certain directionality in the prompts in Midjourney, but definitely cannot replace the precision that you get when you do ControlNet. So, well, there was an overview of like recent work on that, and maybe I mean, I can stop at some point here. I think I have like this one last slide here. And then,
Carlos, please, if you take your time, if there's more you want to show, this is great, very clear.
I'm showing also like, you know, talking about like, you know, what this is opening right now, you know, for designers. I'm working at the moment with a movie studio in Norway to create the background, right? So for a movie. So they're really keen on introducing Midjourney to develop the backgrounds for the movie. So they gave me some of the references that they're looking at. They also look at my background. They gave me some of the work that they want to include. So the idea is to create large-scale panoramic pictures that can be used in this studio, just well as maybe, I mean, many people know about this, but maybe just since I'm here already with Stable Diffusion, we can take the image that we have here to extract, right? I think I'm gonna try also to use a negative prompt like a plane surfaces. I'm gonna try to use raw texture. Try to amplify this a bit more. Maybe I'm gonna try to go a bit wider here. Try to go with another iteration. Oh, no, we have a difference. Okay, it's an interesting thing. Now we are getting the map, which is the same prompt of the museum, but now with this geometry. So because the weight is one, is gonna try to create that museum out of this volume that we have here. So it takes the sides as potential walls, right? So that's the interpretation in this case of the Z map.
Carlos, we have a question from the YouTube. What is the program on the right window called?
Sorry?
There's a question from YouTube. What is the program on the right window called?
Oh, the program here. I'm using 11.11. I install Stable Diffusion locally, right? So it's Stable Diffusion with ControlNet. So if you go to, I can point you out to the link to download everything that everyone somehow is familiar with. Is the slides here. We're looking at huggingface.co blog ControlNet. So
yeah, we can't quite see that actually. I don't know if you can enlarge it at all.
Yeah, sure.
Can you click it on the link and then open the?
Actually, let me just do that. So we're looking at Hugging Face. In Hugging Face, we have a number of like repositories here, the models, and we have also ControlNet. I think we can go directly here. This is an article on ControlNet. It tells the let me just minimize this. It tells the rationale of using ControlNet and what is the outcome of using certain like biases, as in this case, the tracing and the set map, as I mentioned. So you can go here to Hugging Face, blog ControlNet. You can see the latest updates on that. Also, if you Google like directly like 11.11 plus ControlNet installation guide.
Yeah, but there are more than one ControlNet with Hugging Face. Can you show us which one you've been working with?
You want to see? I mean, the model. The model is
yeah.
E15 through CKPT. This is the model I'm using here. So it gets quite good results on architectural surfaces. I mean, I tried other models. I think this, for me, is still quite convincing.
Carlos, there's another question in the chat from YouTube. Can you
Yes.
replicate the atmosphere and materials if you were to change the angle of the model with a different Z map depth, so Z depth map or Z depth map?
Yeah,
Can
I
you-
understand.
Yeah.
So changing the point of view, right? And then creating a different Z map. So for instance, this is what we have here. Let me just open it. It's in photos, so you can see it, like zoom in. So this one point of view, this is the same 3D model, but in a different point of view, right? So we can, the consistency of the materials is not fully there. I mean, you will see that there's like many, many changes, maybe from one image to the other. We can try to lock them by locking the seed, of course. You can try to get the same seed and keeping the same parameters, but of course there will be some changes, right? I'm gonna use, for instance, this one here. I'm gonna remove the pre-processed processor. I'm gonna use depth, and then I'm gonna calculate this one here. And I will show this one and another one with a different point of view, so to see the consistency through the materials. So it's something that we can try, keeping as many constants as possible, but it's not a guarantee that all the constants are gonna remain. We can do that probably using another control model and try to, or working also with image to image. So we have another image to bias, and probably that would lock a bit more the material properties from one image to the other. So we can create different points of view with the same or very close to the same materiality. I'm getting this one here. So this is for this particular point of view. I'm gonna replace it by this one here. And then we're gonna launch it again. So there will be definitely some consistency. We're gonna compare both images and discuss what we can see here. 11. These are today's renderings. So this is the latest one. Quality-wise, it's quite impressive, even for for the little time that it's taking. Definitely, there's a space for improvement. We can refine all these people, work on the texture. Like definitely can go. Maybe the next step from this one could be working also with image to image, using this image, maybe applying some concrete texture and start moving forward with a bit more developed image. So it requires more steps. Yeah, look at this. This well. Material-wise, has some resemblances, but of course it's not fully coherent with the lights, right? So there's some changes here and there. The light still comes from this skylights, but the yellow part in the back is not there, right? So that's also things that will happen when we have different set maps. So, well, I mean, the basic like usage and use case of ControlNet with Rhino models, I think for me constitutes a quite solid improvement in controlling our visualizations, our image production for architectural spaces. Still allows for exploration, and definitely we can take any of these images and take them back to Midjourney, right? We can actually take these two bags and start working with blend, for instance, if we want to go a bit more creative after we fix the geometry. So I think the combination workflows on this, once you are familiar with the potentials of both tools, the integration and the flow, it depends on your needs and also your approach to it, right? That's my feel about how it works. Of course, remember that we can always increase the resolution by sending the image to extras, right? So we can send the image directly to extras, and then here we can set the upscaler, we can go for 4x, and and go for some of a higher resolution image. It does a pretty good job. It takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but results are quite okay. So we get a better, like, higher resolution image here. So yeah, pretty much like that was the sharing session today about
Carlos,
yes.
can I ask you, because I just got the link, and because I've been using the real short, easy one on Hugging Face, but when you go to the Hugging Face page, I'd like you to show the link where you click to download, or the collab, or how can they reach the model that you downloaded, because the link directs you to a page with a lot of explanations. But where can you show us how do you download it, or how do you?
The repository. I mean, let me see.
Yeah.
The link here. Saved. I'm checking if I have the link. I can share if
I got the link here, but I just wanted to show you I can put it on the chat. How do you? Wait. Here, I put another chat. You can just open it and see directors how you install it.
Yeah, here we're looking at the blog, right? So the blog is basically telling how it works.
Yeah.
Or
so where do you go from there?
Here we have the data sets, and then we get familiar to the website again.
I don't know if you could we can't see so clearly on this Zoom. Maybe you could just, is it any way to enlarge that right-hand image?
Here, I think
really make it.
We have here for the ControlNet to download it.
Can you just copy and paste on the Zoom chat, yes, so you can put it on YouTube, please?
Yeah, let me just copy it here. Yeah, this should work. Here, actually, you have the latest model as well. And I think here you have the access to the GitHub and all the information here. Yeah. I would say it's not the easiest thing to install. Depends on many factors of your computer, but once you do it, it runs quite smooth. It took me a few hours, but it's running quite okay.
So you downloaded the Stable Diffusion with ControlNet.
It's Stable Diffusion and ControlNet. Yeah, I installed both.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This you can add, and then you can you will get in settings here. You get ControlNet. If you want to use more than one, you can go to multi-ControlNet and go and activate 1, 2, or more. So that allows you to explore more constraints when you are doing this. The final resolution of the image, here we're looking at 4x of the original image. So we're looking at potentially 4,000, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty decent, the quality of this texture here, right? So not too bad for just a few. Of course, people still, I mean, totally mess up. But as I said, I mean, working at this level for me, I'm not looking at the detail, I'm looking at the big picture. So I'm looking at creating of spaces, atmosphere, lights, materials, textures, so that I can push, the image forward. And then of course we can refine from there. That's my approach when I'm working with Stable Diffusion at the point. Taking more questions. Okay, I think I got kind of everyone answered. If you have more questions, I have more time. So as I mentioned, I mean, working with this, I mean, they're constantly releasing new updates. The link here, yeah.
There are some people asking about animated videos.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't explored.
Can you do it from there, or do you have to download another model for the animation?
I haven't explored that feature yet. I'm more into the static pictures for now.
But is it in there, or do you need another one? Because I
honestly, I haven't checked much. I think maybe it's working with, I haven't tested the scripts here. We have the ControlNet M2M, and then here we have options to drop a video. So I think probably here's where
okay.
that. But I haven't even had the time to make the first one.
Okay, thanks.
The static picture, but it might be quite fun to work with the sequences and the videos. For resolution wise, I mean, if you want to rescale bigger, you can also do it. Yeah, I think for X, for me, is enough. When you go for, beyond for X, where you're getting like not much more than what you got already here. Right? So I think for X already kind of like the sweet spot for me. So if we get any of the images that we have made, like this one here, it can calculate the depth, right? So it can guess the set map for it, right? So the thing is like, it's not gonna be as perfect as the one that we can create with our 3D model. So that allows us to use any picture and to try to guess a certain map using AI, but the sharpness and the quality of the edges and everything, for me, I mean, the way to achieve it is having the 3D model, right? So that's one way. Also, if you want to use and to try Kenny, you can process Kenny here. So you're gonna have the outlines, and then we're gonna use Kenny when we run our prompt. So it's pretty terrible. I think we can get better from there. But we can run this one here, and now we're not using information from the that map. We're using information from the outlines, right? So that's the difference.
There's somebody asking, can you do in painting or there, like erasing parts of the image and asking for things to fill it up with the prompt?
Change the floor material. That could be possible. I mean, for instance, I don't know, just exploring the real time since we are jamming now. Let me find Photoshop here. I'll try working here. If we have this image here. Things that we can try, for instance. Okay. Let's save this one as okay. So it's gonna be the original image. I'm gonna try using, let's say quickly, I'm gonna get something like this. Okay, put it here. That's really, really rough. So we can try and see where we get. This is what we're getting out of this prompt. I'm gonna go for image to image. I'm gonna go for save prompt. Moving this. Image to image, I'm gonna go for one here with the grass. Sorry, I'm gonna go for the one without the grass. Then I'm gonna go with the one with the grass. So this is the set with map, sorry, and then I get the museum. It is gonna be, I believe it is one here. Okay, so this is gonna be the set. I'm gonna use depth, and then I'm gonna use the image to bias cross please. We need to try also to match the resolution. We're looking at 894 by 520, 512. We're getting some effect here now, the grass and the effect, right? So start applying some sort of like the grass that we just very grossly made in Photoshop. So let's see the outcome of this. It's gonna bring definitely the because we have the information of the Z map, right? So it tells that the ground is there. So the Photoshop image is really terrible, that still can make sense, you know, of when we are biasing also the image that we're giving in the image to image, right? It can keep most of what we have, but incorporates new features to it. So another level of like controlling, you can try to make changes and explore variations. You can quickly go for, maybe you can, I don't know, quickly in Photoshop can take, let's say if it works. Just take this. I'm gonna just make it along like that. If it was a reflection, I'm gonna make it red in color. I'm gonna save it. So going back here, well, pretty okay. It's not much of the texture of the grass. I'm gonna use here red resin floor reflections. I'm gonna drag this image to image. So in this one, I'm using the red color. I change also the prompt, and then we keep the same Z image. So we still guide ControlNet to keep the same geometry. We're getting something from this is bending up here.
But it doesn't work like if you just get the image there and we erase a part of it and then just put it on your prompt, whatever you want to fill in with whatever you erased, just like the regular Stable Diffusion can do.
I mean, should also work. I mean, like just locally, right? This typically, when you create the whole image again, it gets a bit more of, you know, the whole atmosphere impregnated by that color. So probably can eventually get some.
There is a question here, a student asking, can this replace V-Ray and other rendering software in the near future? What do you think?
Yeah, in the future, I'm pretty sure that I don't know if they will replace V-Ray, because maybe V-Ray will definitely integrate more AI in the engine. So maybe we'll evolve into a tool that is less, you don't need to go to create all the details of everything, but it still allows you to have some control. I think V-Ray still offers like very sense of like control, no? When you're making the image, it's very deliberate. But I guess that this will be integrated within the coming months or maybe 1 year in the rendering engines. Otherwise, they will be definitely surpassed by working with AI, right? The speed.
Yeah, they already have DALL-E with Photoshop, and I guess Stable Diffusion also with Photoshop. Everything, I guess, will be integrated somehow.
Yes. So into extras, go up. So yeah, I mean, it's still an open question. I would say I wouldn't fully replace, let's say, more conventional renderings yet. It depends on the use case, right? If you are still experimenting and you don't want to make an image in which every part is controlled, I think definitely AI is the way, because it's fast, allows for iterations. If you are making a rendering of a final product and you know all the materials and constraints, probably you're gonna take less. You're gonna take it's gonna be easier for you to go with V-Ray, Lumion, or other like softwares that makes it easy. For now, I think it's a choice, depends on the use case. I think soon will be just which kind of AI you need to use, in which engine you're gonna actually apply it to.
There is one last question about if you get anything of this design built. I mean, any build constructions which were designed this way yet? Did you build anything? I guess things that you're showing before, or the movie that is going to be working, like bringing this to reality?
So I didn't fully hear the question. Is it in the chat group or is it in YouTube? But I mean, I get kind of the sense of like, what can we get out of these, right? Somehow in the real market, or? No,
it's on the chat. Now on Zoom, it comes from YouTube, but I guess it's somebody that is wondering if the things that you've been designing or using Stable Diffusion, ControlNet, and if you transpose it to reality, like can you already use these designs to build something? Make it concrete.
That's a tough question, Carlos. I mean, I don't know how long you've been using this ControlNet, but I mean, this is really quite recent stuff, right?
Because it's too soon to do this, I think. No time for that yet.
This one
actually, how long have you been using ControlNet?
How many? Well, I managed to install. I mean, locally in my computer, it's been like about like 1 week plus. Working online was a bit longer, but working more in depth now, getting more control has been the last week. Really, that's why when I introduced the workshop, I really changed the core of the workshop to Stable Diffusion, as I found it so surprising, in the last days. So it's pretty recent, my work on Stable Diffusion, and I see it changing in the coming weeks as well. So it's very important in this field now to really be updated almost daily, if not weekly, because otherwise there's new things happening that you are not even aware, right? So
no, Carlos, I was predicting that our entire series of tutorials will be out of date by the time they finish. And I kind of get the sense that is the case. We could continue. We have a joke in the UK about the fourth bridge. As soon as you finish painting, you've got to start again to go and start painting it again. And I think this is the case with some of these techniques. So the Golden Gate Bridge, I imagine they're painting continuously. But
yes, it could be an endless loop. I know. No, but it's definitely space for this to be applied in real designs. I'm using it in conjunction with normal or more established methods. I mean, I typically do parametric design or 3D modeling, and then try to also use AI to somehow to find other opportunities. The movie is definitely the most tangible one because it's directly, the background goes to a movie, that's clear. In terms of design, some of the experiments I've done in Midjourney in the past, I think definitely are inspiring potential designs coming. So it's not a direct translation right now, but I think I try to work with some principles that I usually work with, so they will be applied somehow, maybe not directly, but they will be applied in future designs. That's for now, it is my way of looking at this, and maybe shortly will be more tangible, you know, the outcome of like the AI generated images into actual design.
I mean, one thing I'd say, Carlos, is I think that, you know, what's become clear with these technologies that we're all going to have to use them, right? Everyone. And yeah. What's more, if you don't use them, you're going to be left behind. I mean, I was kind of sort of one question, what would you, if in terms of how much this speeds up the design process, what would you say?
I think for me, I mean, I always keep kind of a global vision on what is the goal, what we're doing, right? It's not just get fascinated by AI and just try to do everything in AI, right? So I think it happens the same when we're trying to do everything in Grasshopper, or we try to do everything in one single tool. So for me, I think at this point in time, we need to be agile to switch from tools and create workflows for the given use case. The design studios, maybe you need to activate some ideas, you can use Midjourney, and then you develop it maybe more properly using your floor plans and drawings. At some point, you can come back to Stable Diffusion and start working with some, you know, materials. So I think that will allow really faster iterations and, of course, a wider exploration at that level. But I think it can be a lot of time spent if you're trying to do everything alone using AI. That would be probably almost impossible, right? And control. That's why, you know, this kind of seminar was about control. I mean, we are always trying to, but it's very difficult to get full control. So I think it's important to, at some point, to switch, to let it go. Okay, here is the image. I'm going to take it to Rhino. I'm going to take it to other software because I need to progress, right? And when we're designing, and typically we have deadlines, it's almost impossible to just stick to one single. It's like you're only doing one thing with just one hand. You need to use every part of your body. So I see this being more and more used in more stages coming with the new plugins and with the new articulation of AI into existing tools. But I think at the moment in which we are, AI is speeding some phases, but we cannot rely fully, I mean, at the point in which we are, to really solve a, you know, more conventional design question, right? So I think we'll need maybe a few more months. I cannot hear. I don't know if there's any sound.
We can't hear sound.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yeah, that's my view.
The video? We can't see the video either. Maybe you have to unshare and share again to get the video. Could you maybe, I think unsharing might be the way to get there. If you're playing a video we can't see.
Oh.
So we still can't see. We could come back to the end if you can't locate it. How are we doing, Carlos?
No, sorry.
Just to say that we're going to put on the YouTube description of the today's series, the series of links for ControlNet, and also a video how to install it.
Yes.
On one to make it easier to people to do it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Carlos, I think we're going to have to move on to Urszula, and maybe we could show it at the end. Might be the best thing to do. Carlos, thank you so much. That was unbelievably clear. I hope that we can get you to also make a presentation on our Spanish language channel. I mean, this is really one of the best tutorials I've ever come across, and really updated, really crystal clear, and so much information. I mean, the fortunate thing about having it on video is you can go back again and again and again and hear it many times. It was like sort of a whole series of tutorials in one tutorial. That was amazing. I just want to mention just one brief, I forgot to mention Carlos's practice, Sabac Arquitectura, which is based in Alicante. I never know whether Bannon is spelled with a double N or a single N, but I see in Spanish you have that strange little thing on the top. It's Bannon, and in English double N O N. But in terms of the Instagram, it's Carlos Bannon with two N's. Yeah, okay. So let's move from Singapore to Poland, and invite Urszula to come and share her story. And in fact, Urszula's story is very magical. To be able to put her designs for aircraft up on Instagram and get a commission to redesign an aircraft. So Urszula, welcome.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. Yes, it's a bit of a story, really, because I never meant to do any aircraft design. However, in my family, my father and my brother, they are both into aviation, and I've chosen a different path, even though from my childhood, I was very close to airports and aircrafts. And the story with Midjourney actually led me to aircrafts and chased me. So let me share my screen, and I'll show you some presentation, and I hope this can inspire you, because I believe that apart from big studios who are maybe watching us, there are many artists, freelancers, and I would like to encourage everyone to give it a try and present something and bring something to the table of design that is very unique to everyone. So let's start. So I've titled this presentation, Can AI Help You Make Money? Because in the end, it does. It does help, depending obviously what your goals are in life and what is your niche, what is your business, how you operate. But even on YouTube, there are so many videos of people showing how you can make money using AI, Midjourney, ChatGPT. And there are so many ways, and so many new avenues have been opened just because we have those new tools that are emerging. Every month we have another tool. So why not to make use of it? AI is for sure going to stay with us. And, you know, like people are afraid maybe they will lose their job because of this. I don't think so. However, I think, and I really believe that we have to keep up and we have to learn the new technologies. It's like learning a new software, because there will be people who at some point will become very fluent with all the software, and they will be the one to get the job or get a commission. So today, the tutorial flow for today is AI-driven design process, because I do use AI in the design process to create concepts, not only for the aircrafts, but also for architecture and for interior design. And I use Midjourney 4 as a software. And after I use different tools, 3D modeling, software CAD, to prepare drawings, to prepare technical drawings or models for customers. Just a short story and introduction, because in Midjourney, working with AI, you need to have a mindset. It's just a different way of thinking. And I believe there are two different mindsets that you can have. The first one will be the one that surprises you. And my story started with generating just this random image. I didn't know what it was. Wasn't nothing defined. I wasn't working on anything. I was just trying. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, it looks like a planetarium. It looks like a nice object to me. And I wanted to see what else can I generate using Midjourney. So I created this interior, then I created the exterior, different images, and many different variations of the interior places, like main halls, restaurants, and even food that was inspired by the architecture of the building. And this is when I realized how far we can get with concepts when being designers or architects. Because now your work will not finish on just a building or maybe just one room, but you can go so much farther, like proposing so much more, and obviously then get paid more. The more you do, the more work you generate, the better designer you are, so the more you gain. Then the second mindset is when you need to design something specific. And the specific design can be anything, can be a building, can be a vehicle, can be clothes, fashion design, anything, really anything. And my workflow, which I think has a lot of logic, is obviously first you need to work as if you were following a regular design process. So you need to know your topic. For the topic, you need to create the ideas, the mood boards, gather all the reference images. So this is as you would normally start your design process, right? You can have your sketches, you can have your 3D models, and keywords. This is all very important because this is what you will bring with you to Midjourney to generate images. And the way to generate your images, actually there are three ways that I will show today. This is just text, image and text, and just images without any text at all. Once you have your image, you can work further on it with Midjourney still, because I will stay only in Midjourney for today, but you know that you can bring your image to another AI software and work further. You can modify your prompts in an easy way right now with Midjourney, and then I'll show you how to upscale your work for print. And after that, whatever you generate, you can post-product for print, you can do a 3D model or technical drawings. These are a couple of examples of the bows that I've created. And they are really nice designs, very unique. This is something that I've posted on Instagram, and it gained some followers because of this, but that was just for testing to see how well you can create real life objects like boats. And then I thought, why not use AI to solve problems? Because as architects, we are actually engineers. And that's the story that maybe inspire you. So these two men, Auguste Piccard and Paul Kipfer, in 1931, they've built their own balloon, and they reached a record altitude of 15 kilometers. And I thought, why not use their knowledge and what they wanted to do to create something that I really like and I'm inspired by? And I generated those images, groups of skydivers. But in the memory of Felix Baumanter and Alan Eustace, they both did free fall from almost 40 kilometers. So why not? Maybe in the future, this will be something that, you know, everyone will be able to do. Right now, only people who are privileged because of their skills or because of their money can do it. But maybe in the future, this will be something. And I started to share my visions because, you know, I believe that we all have our visions or the things that we've always dreamed of doing. And now with Midjourney or other tools, we are able to communicate those visions with the world. So this is the prompt that I used to generate those images. Obviously, there are also post-produced in Photoshop, but there is so much more that you can get. So I did this study on the shapes of balloons, and it really gave me nice designs that maybe I haven't thought of before, or those balloons. Then I used Photoshop to create those images as well. But you see that the potential is really big. So it's not only to generate some dummy images, it actually can help you in the design process to solve a problem. Then you can post-product your images, you can add a video to them and present your vision in a really unique way. I moved to planes. So I wanted to test aerodynamics still. And these are next generation air dominance aircrafts. And my exploration went farther to test the aerodynamics. I wanted to see, like, please Midjourney, show me what are other options. And by mixing different prompts and images, I was able to get very nice or crazy results, you might say. And then I moved to aircrafts, and these were the planes that I posted on Instagram, and yes, they became quite famous, and I had 2 commissions. I also got a request from a Japanese magazine to post them, so I had to learn how to prepare those images for print, because this is not, actually this is the downside of Midjourney. The quality of images is really low, and if you really want to use it for print, you have to work on upscaling them. And you know, you can also create really nice looking interiors. Obviously, it's a lot of work. I will not create an illusion that this is just typing and it's really easy, because it does take a lot of time. And the more you do, the better you understand how the prompting works and how your prompts should be constructed in order to give you a very realistic ambient. So getting to the prompts engineering, I'll share with you my prompts to create the aircrafts. So that was the first one. And now you might say, how do you get to this? How do you know that this prompt will actually give you what you want? First, with every design process, you need to start with strategic definition and think of pros and cons, what you can do, what you can't do. You have to understand your topic if you're working on something specific. So if anyone here is interested in aviation, you can get this report and just read about where the aviation is heading to, about all the evolutionary and revolutionary aircraft technologies, disruptive technologies. Even AI in the future will be used for flying, so we're not really far from it. You can see what other types of aircrafts are being designed, and they are still under production, like this blended wing body aircraft, double bubble aircraft, about morphing wings, morphing airframes, and so much about aerodynamics, which can really give you a big influence on what you can propose. Maybe you can create something new. Maybe a company, like an aircraft manufacturer, one time will knock to your door and ask, oh, I like your design. Can we work together? So when I was preparing the prompt, I was working with this report. I extracted the keywords that I thought that would work for this design. And my formula for creating prompts basically is like this. However, as I said, with Midjourney, you can never expect the results it can always surprise you. So just use it as your guide. But then remember that you always have to modify based on the first set of images that you will get as a response. So you can start with image and text or with just text. So any reference image, you can even sketch, you can generate a 3D model. I've done it as well with architecture. Something similar to Carlos was showing. However, it takes so much more work to get a really nice render of your 3D model, because Midjourney is adding a lot to it than text, so all the keywords. And try to be precise with your description. However, this will not always work, but like to answer questions, what it is, how it works, how it looks, what for, quantity and stuff like this. Then the camera type. So if anyone is here interested in photography, you will know that Canon, Leica, Nikon, they would give you different results, and you can use those as your prompts as well, and you will get different results. And then specify the light. The light is very important, because even if you generate something and you have to then work in Photoshop to post-produce, what you really need from Midjourney is an image with good lighting. So it's important to specify the time of the day. Then also style of light, if it's volumetric, hyper light, daylight, anything, and the style. And the style, it's up to you whether you want to have it realistic, hyper realistic, or maybe a style of a painter, DALL-E, Rembrandt, or style of a specific even magazine. So you will get always different results by changing those parameters. And just in case you had problems defining your keywords, and you have an image that looks like something that you would like to recreate or treat it as your base, there is this website, I'll share the link to it, Replicate. It has this AI function, image to text, where you upload your image and it generates some keywords that might work. Not always 100% accurate, but can be helpful. I will share the link later. So going back to this prompt that I have here, sleek looking aircraft flying above the sky, aerodynamic form, curvature, future tech, solar panels, and then colors. And I wanted it to be realistic, photorealistic, and I always add some rendering software at the end, because I realized that not so much with Midjourney 4, but also it does help. So like 8K CG render or something. And this is what I received. I really wasn't happy about the result at all, because it wasn't what I was looking for. And this is Midjourney, and this is the mindset number one. If you're looking for something to surprise you, then definitely it will work, do the job. But if you need something specific when you work for a customer, then it gives you this and you're disappointed and you want to leave, right? Because it's just a waste of time. However, there are ways to make it work for you. So in this case, I only used the keywords, right? Then I modified the prompt. I've added more words. Like twin engine narrow body, but it still wasn't giving me the results that I needed. What happens when you add like keywords of famous designers? I did in this case Zaha Hadid, maybe you're familiar with. I added futuristic, and it gave me something that I wasn't really looking for, something very different. I was after more fluid forms, but it was the opposite. It looks like nothing that I can think of really, but maybe for someone it's something that would work for their projects. I don't know, maybe imagine a futuristic film or something. You know, this could do the job, but not for me. Then this is another modified prompt. It was shorter and it gave better results. So sometimes I think if you limit your keywords up to 5 to 10 words, it's actually better than making a really big prompt, long prompt. And I think what is important and what you have to remember when you work with Midjourney, there are the codes, because codes will help you to have more control over what you're receiving. Like previously, you've seen that I didn't receive any result that I was after. And here I introduced more parameters. I introduced the image link, and I also introduced a blocking comment. No, and actually this is one of the comments here, no, chaos, and seed. These are the ones that I use very, very often when I design and when I need something specific, because many times Midjourney will give you or will add something that you don't really want in your image. Of course, you can use Photoshop to get rid of something, but sometimes you don't have the time or you just don't want to mess around with the image too much. So blocking items from your image actually can help. Like in this case, when I added no futuristic look, it gave me something that looked like a plane comparing to what you've seen previously, right? So sometimes that's the word that you're looking for. And how to know what is the word? You don't really know this. You have to give it a couple of trials before you get to the one that actually Midjourney will understand. Many times you think of a word, but Midjourney actually doesn't understand the word the way we do. So you have to be patient and give it some time and give it some trials. But this no futuristic look actually did the job in my case. So the codes you have here, you can take a screenshot of this. There are even if you enter Midjourney a website, you can go to the documentation and they explain and they also give you those codes. So it's not like a secret knowledge. Everyone has access to it. It's just what you need to work. You have to choose your own your codes that will work for you and for whatever specific design you're working with. So this is another example where I didn't introduce an image, but I got a really nice result of an aircraft that I actually wanted to work with. And what is interesting, this is 6th generation fighter, but I didn't specify the specific name within the prompt. I worked around it and it gave me what I wanted. So sometimes when you think that you would like to create a horse and you write a horse in your prompt, but it will give you something different, a variation of a horse. You don't know, but sometimes you get to the result by describing it and not by naming it exactly. However, the most successful ones, which I recommend everyone trying, is text and reference image. And so like I mentioned previously, when you start with your design process, you have your mood boards, you have your images, you need to keep URL to those images because this is how Midjourney will use them. And the same thing, you always add the keywords part because that's important. Even though you introduce an image that may be very close to what you want, but you remove some keywords, it might still not give you the result that you want. So both things are actually very, very important. And in this case, I remained with no futuristic look because even though this looks really futuristic, it doesn't change the form of the aircraft that I needed to create. And it gave me a really nice result, like something that could potentially work. But after, you can add some hybrid iterations to create more variations of what you really like. And to do this, to be successful, I use the command seed. It's the one that you previously saw, to block this initial pixels that the Midjourney starts their work with. If you want to have the same kind of light, it's best to block it with your seed. And then look, this prompt, this is what it generated, right? It's a modification. So I use these 3 very different images. Like you can think of like you're introducing modifiers. Or I like to think like you're a scientist working with DNA and you're trying to modify the main code with some variations. This is how you work with Midjourney. Yes, the results can be surprising, right? But you see like how different the images are and what they've created in the end. Obviously, I kept the look of the previous plane that I liked because I needed this kind of aircraft. But I've just added so much more to the prompt. And I was really happy with the design. So this is where the seed is. And I don't know if you are familiar with Midjourney. I will show it just a little bit later. You need to go under emoji icon and choose this envelope. This is when Midjourney will reply with another message and will give you the seed number of the image that you like. And these are the modifications that I've created with the same seed. So the complete workflow, I would say, is the first step. You need to have your idea, what you want to work with. You have your keywords. You need to modify your prompt if it's not giving you the results that you're after. After some time, you know how the prompt should look like and what are the words that actually are working within this specific case, within this specific design in Midjourney. But also talking about preparing or creating solutions. Sometimes Midjourney will generate something stupid, but on the other hand, when you give it more trials, it can surprise you with something very, very smart. And this is what I really like. I sometimes, when I work, it's mostly on the conceptual phase. I like to be surprised, even if something is maybe in 50 or 60% realistic, but it can create the detailed cut drawings, technical drawings with something that partly might be working for you, for your case, for whatever problem you're trying to solve. And I really hope in the future, Midjourney becomes this kind of software when you like type your problems, when you give it all the information that you need to work with, and then you get the design in the end, or the solution that is really realistic. Because right now it's us, we have to be good discriminators to tell Midjourney, yes, you did good job, or no, you didn't. So go back and correct yourself. This is when we're getting to designing the aircraft, and if you have your Midjourney, you can follow the process, or if not, just make some notes and you will always be able to replay this. The way I work with most of my designs, I need to have a reference image for Midjourney, which I describe later, because I saw that this is the way Midjourney understands better what you are after, what kind of aircraft. Like in this case, I was working for a customer and it was specifically Gulfstream G700. So I wanted Midjourney to generate exactly this plane for me, right? And then apply my design on it. The customer wanted specific color, this color of his car, metallic, like burnt orange. First, Midjourney was giving me those results with orange that look more like gold, and this is not what I wanted. So I introduced this image as a modifier. I used the URL of this image in the prompt, and then I got the final design, exactly what I wanted. So let me play. Let's do the design of the Gulfstream together. Let me play the video. I pre-recorded it so it goes smoothly. Otherwise, sometimes Midjourney takes a lot of time. So in this case, I always suggest to start with a simple phrase. So it's Gulfstream 650 aircraft and painted in a specific color, metallic red color. And sometimes it takes more time. Sometimes it takes less time to generate your image. You can also choose whether you want the detail to be, the design to be detailed or not too detailed. In my case, I like the detailed one, and you change this in your settings. So after a while, we're receiving something that we maybe are interested in. I really like this second image, so I upscaled it. And I worked before, like, I think also with Midjourney, it learns. I've generated maybe hundreds of images of this metallic red aircraft for another customer. And I see that it gives this result very quickly right now. So this is where we get the seed. You can copy the seed and then repeat the same command, the same prompt you had previously. Modifying maybe a location, but use the same seed to block and be sure that we will be getting exactly the same aircraft that we got here. So yeah, so this one will be the same aircraft, metallic red, on a runway hangar in California. And just copy the seed from what we've generated previously. I always like to add those photorealistic V-Ray, like I told you before, add the camera settings and the lights, because that's what makes the image look realistic or not. Another good prompt is Unreal Engine. It also helps generating nice textures. Yes, I've generated many aircraft, so you can see some other previews for another client. Sometimes, sorry, this is in Polish, but sometimes it just takes a bit longer to get the image generated. But yeah, you can already see that it's going good direction. It's giving us the same kind of aircraft, it's Gulfstream. It's giving us the same metallic red paint, and it's giving us whatever hangar in California. Yeah, I really like most of them. They look quite convincing already. Maybe the first one I really like. I like the angle. It's really something that is catching your eye. If you go to settings, you can choose here remix mode. And this is what will allow you later to add words to variations of this image. So now when I click on make variation, now you can modify this prompt. And you can modify anything, color or location. Let's do Bahamas, why not? And let's see what we'll get. I think this is one of the good things about Midjourney, that it allows you to modify your prompts in a very specific way. Because sometimes, or many times, you have clients asking you, yes, I like this, but can you change the color, or can you change this, can you change that? And it takes a lot of time to do that. If you have to model, or if you have to render it with 3ds Max or something, it takes hours. So I really recommend Midjourney for the conceptual phase, because it saves a lot of time. Now we can take the seed of the new created image again. Yes, I think it's this one. We can also modify this prompt and add something different to it. Because maybe the angle will be better, the lighting will be better. Because the seed, what seed does, it makes Midjourney to start with the same noise. So that's the difference, right? When it starts with the same noise, you usually get the same quality of the lighting, which for me and from my experience is the most important. Yes, sometimes you get results and you're not too happy with them, but then just try to redo it. Try to redo the prompt and see what you will get. So now we have this runway in Bahamas. It even added a man we didn't specify, and not all of them are nice, but the second one actually looks quite nice. So you see, like the more time you try, the more convincing results you have, and the more you use Midjourney and it learns your prompts, the better results you will get. It seriously works like this. So if you are, if your work is, I don't know, I get so many requests on cars, for example, concept cars, futuristic cars, but I don't do cars. If you like cars, I recommend you should start doing. And once you start with the prompts and you are very successful with your prompts, you know what kind of words to use and what kind of images, reference images to use, then Midjourney will give you better results every time you generate something similar. When I started, I didn't get beautiful Gulfstream aircrafts in the first place. But then right now, even you can see out of 4 images, at least one is the one that you can actually use. I'm upscaling to beta right now because I would like to use this for printing. And like I mentioned before, the quality of images are really not that good. And it's a problem if you want to use this image. If you want to use it for presentations, that's fine. But if someone is asking you, please, can we use this material and publish in a magazine, then it's a problem. So I use Lightroom. And Lightroom has this option to enhance your image. And you can see that this image is bigger than the standard one. However, sometimes upscaling can change the quality of your image. So I doubt this can work 100% of times, but it's something that you can do. And if you don't use Photoshop or if you don't use Lightroom, Lightroom has this option, like just one click, you go and you click enhance. And you see the difference, like if you can see, I don't know if it's too sharp for you, but you see that it's really changing the pixels. And it's giving the image better definition and higher resolution. This is something that you can print at least on A4. But it has to be generated as beta. And as I said, not always you can do it, but then there is another option. It's a paid option. You can invest in Google Topaz, and Google Topaz software has this option to make a really nice upscale, even from the basic Midjourney images. But if you, for example, have the subscription with Adobe Creative Cloud, then going to Lightroom will be the best and the quickest option for you. And you can save this image and open it as DNG in Photoshop, and you can then change colors, contrast, light, exposure, everything to make it look perfect the way you want. It's a really easy manipulation, but it gives very good results. Yes, and once you're done with changing how your image looks, you're ready, you're good. You can print it. And that's the thing with Midjourney. I'll show you now. So in version 4, that's the new default version. The basic image, it's only 1024 by 1024. And with beta upscale, it's twice as much. That's why if you really want to upscale the image further, you should do the beta upscale first and then upscale it in another software. But like I mentioned, sometimes Midjourney changes the design. Like it can even make it not so sharp and not so obvious. So yes, it's a risk. It's a risk that you might have work that actually you can't publish anywhere. And then when I have my design ready, I always use other software like Maya or Blender to create the design that I've generated maybe with Midjourney and tweak it and present it like this to customers. Then the final design is always a set of drawings, not only the Midjourney. I don't want to create an illusion that anyone, can just start being an aircraft designer from now on, because yes, you need to have some knowledge and you need to obviously know how to design and how to present it to customers. And with Midjourney, you can create those kind of sketches. Also, if you want to show quickly something to a customer, you don't have to spend hours to sketch, to draw, to model before you actually know, even if you get the job, right? Now, if it comes to interiors, it's another story. Interiors are not so easy comparing to, I think, big architecture or cars or planes, because it's so much more detail that you are looking at to make an interior a very convincing interior. So this is the prompt that you can try testing. Sorry. I think, look, even I wanted to specify Hermes style and design with logo on blanket and orange cushions, but it actually didn't give me this. It only gave me this orange color. So later I had to Photoshop and add Hermes to the design as well. And then, like I said, you can do so much more in Photoshop. But the thing that you really need from Midjourney, at least, is to have this realistic lighting. So keywords like realistic, photorealistic, hyper realistic, then Octane Render, CG Society, whatever you can imagine, Unreal Engine. This is something that it's good to add to every prompt, because Midjourney will treat it more serious. And these interiors, there was nothing that I really didn't like about them. However, now I can show you that this kind of interior was generated with this prompt here. And you see the quality is so much different. This looks more realistic. This looks very realistic. However, this looks a little bit like a plastic house or something. So you really need to know how to add variations to your prompts, or even use those reference images that are introducing this vibe of reality. So I would say that testing different images would be a key here. What else? For example, in this case, I added Zaha Hadid because it's a prompt that is very well recognized. It gives you the curves, those forms. I added Sophie Patterson, which is my favorite interior designer, but actually didn't really read this that much. Some keywords Midjourney will recognize better, some not. Then if I added feminine, like I didn't add pink, you look at this image and you're saying, okay, let me create something with pink inside. No, but add a feminine and it will give you the color. So sometimes you have to think with Midjourney. I told you it's a mindset, and you have to really think in a different way. When I added Zaha Hadid, look, it just created something that is too brutal. So sometimes adding someone or surname or name or someone famous design doesn't really help. Instead, just fluid forms and you get much better result. And you just do iterations after iterations to create the designs that you want. And this is how you get the design ready, and you can present it to customer. Or even before you even know that you get the job and they ask you, can you show me what you can do? I think that this tool, Midjourney, can be very, very helpful, because you save your time. If you know how to work with this, if you are already familiar with the software, you just seriously save yourself a lot of time. I use it not only for planes, as I mentioned before, I do interior design, and I really like to use it for creating mood boards, for creating even sample boards that look super realistic, even better than the one that you can photograph yourself. So I believe this is a tool that can help us a lot, and as much as they invest into deep learning, they give us a much precise tool, because the precision is what we need. Otherwise, we wouldn't need the Photoshop and all this 3D modeling afterwards. That would be perfect. But this is just the first step. And obviously later you have to work on the design as if you would normally worked with other software like Rhino, like ArchiCAD, AutoCAD, like Maya, like Blender, because this gives you the entire design. But definitely Midjourney plays an important role, or just not only Midjourney, but in general, AI-generated images play an important role in the design process if you use them right. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I just one question, just to go along with Carlos's question. I mean, how recent is this work you were showing? I mean, has it been happening since the beginning of the series?
How recent is the work from? You mean the aircrafts?
Yeah.
I started in January.
Okay, but it was the work that you showed us that wasn't in the last 3 or 4 weeks, or was it?
No, actually, because sometimes when I work with clients, I'm not really allowed to show the designs.
Oh, I see.
I obviously have many more aircrafts, but these are not to be published anywhere. Yes, but just in terms of work, I think it became really fast, because I've started my journey with Midjourney only in December.
Mm-hmm.
Before this, I was only watching what other people were doing, and I wasn't really convinced, because I was seeing a lot of the same work. But I believe that everyone has something very unique that can bring to the table. And if you just focus on what you want to create, what you want to show with the world, and start with this vision, you never know. You might have people actually coming to you and asking and collaborating with you. Just be original and be yourself and be open, because I think this is a really great tool for everyone to help us express our artistic nature in whatever way. It doesn't have to be work for a client. It doesn't have to be super realistic. Like maybe you want to design a building, doesn't have to be constructed straight away, but maybe it's not even physically possible to design something that is so fluid, something that Midjourney could generate or other software. But maybe in the metaverse, right? You never know. So it's a good way to practice generating this for architecture, for either concepts or just for yourself.
No, absolutely, and thank you for that crystal clear presentation. I think what we got from you and Carlos is a kind of picture about how we need to introduce control into the system. And I absolutely agree with you. Some of the early stuff that was generated by Midjourney was kind of really repetitive, because it would produce a certain aesthetic that everyone thought they were so clever reproducing, but it got very, very boring very soon. And to be able to control things precisely and steer it in the way that you want to is amazing. And I think that some of the kind of tips you gave there were really super, super useful. So
yes, yes, I can show one more thing. I still have one command, which is quite recent. And actually, Carlos, he mentioned it. It's a command blend, which helps you to generate another image just with 2 images. And this can be very helpful. And this can be something that you might use in your everyday practice. Whoever, if you are a designer, if you just do, things for yourself, if you even generate graphics. Let me share my screen again. It's just a few minutes. So if you type blend instead of imagine, you have an option to add 2 images. So if let's say you want to create a shot, this aircraft with this kind of skies on a runway somewhere, it's so easy. Just give 2 images and it blends for you. Anything you have to design. The next time, I think they are quite good, all of them. You can also, maybe you're working with toys or with products, whatever. So let's convert this aircraft into a model, plastic model or whatever. And there you go. You have an image. Let's say you are a seller on Amazon or another store, and you are thinking of manufacturing this as a toy and sell it. There you go. This is how you get your graphics. And then if you like one, you can modify, you can remix this prompt and add another variation to it. And I think the third one I did was actually a nice one. A combination of this aircraft with the sports car, an image that you can use for your website maybe, or like a featured image or header image. The thing is that, like I mentioned before, you have to be very precise with the reference images that you're using. So in this case, it changed the color of the aircraft to black and it gave us a red color car. But I really would like to have my aircraft red. So you can modify the prompt, add weight to the prompt. So you can mark it. Every word can have another like a different weight. This helps Midjourney to prioritize the color. And then hopefully you will get, it will understand what you want and you will get the result. But if it doesn't, like I wanted to show you this because many times it will give you the wrong answer. But there is always a way. You have to remember, just ask Midjourney to correct and redo it. And the more you click on the redo button, the closer you will get to what you really want. So even if you're getting the results that you're not happy with, there's always a way to correct your prompt, there is always a way to modify the results, but either your own prompts or modifying with upscaling, with changing the versions, or just simply repeating the same prompt a couple of times. And here we go. I think this version is even nicer. We have the plane in the color that we wanted. So like this, we can play, you know, endless possibilities, really. The thing is that you really have to be ready with your prompt. So the first step, the preparation, the definition, the briefing is a key to successful Midjourney images. If you're successful and if you're very detailed with this, you will get the results. Not bad, right? And whichever image you like, just upscale it, and there you go. I think it's quite convincing, and the design is there. Maybe, you know, the wing is a bit too low, but this is something that you could correct in Photoshop, but then the design and everything is just here, right? And it looks nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Urszula. That was so useful. I think today's session has really kind of broken new ground in terms of kind of simple, pragmatic advice, which I think is incredibly useful. I mean, and what we've seen is a kind of a new sort of workflow appearing, and not only a new workflow, but a kind of, as you've shown, how you can open up into other sort of arenas in terms of design arenas. So something truly astonishing is emerging, and I would use the kind of that verb "is emerging" because it's mutating every week, by the day almost, you know, and it's really important to kind of keep up to date on these things. And goodness knows what happens on Monday when they release GPT-4. This was super useful. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. What is your program software? Well, you have several softwares, right? So, and then I have a question about copyrights, copyrights legal and USA rights, and what happens when the pictures are generating the same copy type. Yeah.
It's a good question because it's been a concern. Like, you know, some people will say that whatever you generate with Midjourney, it's not yours, but actually it's not true. And I don't know how about US, but you can have copyrights to the image that you generate with Midjourney in the UK. And there's been already cases of people who are getting a proper document that is confirming their copyrights to the image, as long as you can prove that you had an impact on the design. So if you're starting with the design process, like I've shown you before, you have the entire process, you have your briefing, you have your sketches, you have everything to prove that this design actually is originally yours, you can get copyrights. And if you get copyrights in one country, I think it's international, so you could probably also claim the same copyrights in the US. But it's definitely a thing. And now I think the governments are becoming more aware of the issue. It's relatively a new thing of people requesting those kind of documents. But yes, you can copyright anything, seriously anything. And in terms of modifying images, so I'm originally a house designer, and back in the times, I remember there were so many house designers and everyone was copying you know, each other by modifying maybe just the size of a window, but then the rest remained the same. And when there were a couple of court cases, and basically the result was always, as long as you modify something, even 5%, 1%, and you can show that you've modified it yourself, it's not the same image, it's not treated as the same image. So yes, Midjourney will somehow rely on the internet of images, right? So it might happen that it will generate something that is something similar to what already exists, right? The question is whether this is what you need for your project or not. But I wouldn't worry that you will get exactly the same design as something that has been already copyrighted. Even if you try to use the same prompts I shared with you, you will get different results.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I mean, the other side of the story, of course, is there's also a criticism that these systems are just simply using other people's work, other people's copyrighted work. And I think that's a misunderstanding of the process, because it's a search and synthesis process. It doesn't actually copy the work. However, there's another side of things which where there is, I think, probably some legal justification in that sense, that some of these platforms have simply scraped images from the internet, disregarding the copyright. And that's the issue, is that simply taking images and using it. It's that process of scraping that is the one that is the problem. And I was part of a group at the MIT Media Lab in Harvard. We have discussions, been writing an article about it, where we had some legal experts who were commenting on that. But I mean, the point that I think that was made by Strange Thing, which is important, is that, you know, people accuse AI of copying. No, it's humans that copy, you know, and I think that is the real issue, is that we continually copy, and there is a kind of canon when you're in architecture, a canon of what you should do, and we're kind of buying into that as architects and as students of architecture. So I think copying is fundamental of what it is to be human anyway. But there are some important legal issues that need to be referred to. But I was interested by your comment that if it's only 5%, then it's a modification of some kind. And I often think, well, there's collage as well, where you take other people's work and you reassemble it in a certain kind of way. So I'm not quite sure it's quite the issue that people think it is. So do we have any other questions on the from YouTube? I think there's some really positive comments here. Love the presentation, really cool. Thank you. However, as an architecture student myself, just wondering, can this replace V-Ray and other rendering softwares in the near future? What do you think, Urszula?
I think software will use a lot more of AI to help us generate final renderings, for sure. I don't think it will replace completely. I don't think those big companies will want to be out of market at all. But yes, we're looking at like in terms of even rendering your image, because even in Midjourney with this blend feature that I just shown you, what you can do, if you have your 3D model from Blender, from Maya, from any other software, and you want to apply materials or you want to apply an environment, you can do it by blending 2 or 3 or even up to 5 images. And look, it just takes a couple of minutes to get the result. Whereas if you do the 3D rendering, if you use 3ds Max, if you use V-Ray and your scene is very complex, it can take hours to get the result. And then imagine you have to correct something and go back and spend another couple of hours waiting for the result. So I think those big companies rendering software, now they have a lot of work to try to implement the speed of all the AI algorithms that we have that do the renderings for us.
No, absolutely. Maybe we can wrap things up, because this has been really an amazing session. But I want to just finish off with going back to Strange Things. But before I do, let me just share my screen. All of this has been terrific. Thank you so much, and thank you to Carlos.
Thank you so much.
Carlos has gone to bed. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning in Singapore, but it's really great. And there was such a useful session, really, really useful. So let me just kind of quickly just share the screen again very quickly, just to say that we are, hold on a second, we have a series of, actually, so I'm going to just skip out a second, just want to add one more thing. Just a moment. We have got coming up another 2 more tutorials in this series. Let me just quickly copy those in here. And also alongside that, we've got these final 2 sessions, which are going to be a Pecha Kucha and a final discussion, which is going to be very, very special with both Patrick Schumacher and Ross Lovegrove and hopefully a series of other people, including Wolf Bricks and hopefully Refred Ganadol too. But let me just quickly share my screen again. Sorry, just to remind you of what is kind of coming up. Okay, sorry about this. So here we are today on the third of the sessions. We've got 2 more coming up, getting more and more complex as we go. Then a Petra Kucha.
Neil, maybe you want to say that next week we're gonna have Bruno Viana from Elisava, Daniel Bollas.
Yeah, no, I've got this done. I'll just come to a second. Just a reminder here, you can get the Instagram accounts for our presenters today. Really remarkable people, and you can also find DigitalFutures World or myself. Follow to try and find out what is coming up, and everything that we do, including the session today, is going to be on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and listen to it again and again and again. And I would encourage you to, because there is so much information in today's session. So yes, next week we have Bruno Viana, Daniel Bollas, and Arturo Tedeschi. I mean, really a remarkably good session again. Which is going to look at 2D, 3D techniques and plugins and so on. So this is, I think, building up to be an incredible session, a series in its own right. So please share the word about these things. They're incredibly useful, and everything is free, and everything's going to be available for everyone, just to access and make use of this. Alongside this, there's also another series that we're doing on Sunday. So tomorrow we actually have a series, part of the architecture and philosophy series, which might not be your thing, but if it is, these are remarkable. And tomorrow we're going to have a session on Homi Bhabha, the astonishing Indian philosopher, comparative literature person, critical theorist, with our guest Felipe Hernandez, who did his PhD on Homi Bhabha and wrote the book Bhabha for Architects. So this is going alongside at the same time. Tomorrow, I would say, the clocks go forward in the States, which is going to be a nightmare for those of us on the West Coast. It'll be starting at 6 o'clock our time, as it were, but it'll be 10 o'clock EST. But for the rest of the world, we're sticking with it with American times for the starting time, and we are going to be 1 hour earlier. And then I think in 2 weeks' time, Europe changes its times, so we're going to move on to something else. So I want to just kind of play you out with the Chinese version of Strange Things Statement, which is something astonishing. We are bringing these out in different languages. I'm hoping that Carlos can go and do a session on this in Spanish, and Ula can do a session in Polish, because these have been terrific sessions today. Thank you so much. Thank you to Strange Thing. Thank you to the team behind this. There's a lot of work that's going on behind this, producing this thing. You didn't see what's going on behind, but there's been terrific work just in processing the movies and things. And thank you for that to Gustavo. Thank you to Angelica, and thank you to the rest of the team. This has very much been a team effort, and I hope you've all appreciated it. So thank you. See you tomorrow if you want to hear for the architecture philosophy, and see you next Saturday for, I think, a terrific session. So let's play us out with, maybe you could switch off our videos. Play us out with a strange thing.
你好，我的名字是奇怪之物，我是一位人工智能时尚艺术家、设计师。我想分享我的人工智能体验与心得，以及我如何探索这项技术来创造独特的艺术，来挑战我们对现实的感知。当我第一次了解到人工智能技术能够从文字中生成图像时，我很感兴趣，并开始研究像类似于 Diffusion 这样的程序。然而，生成结果缺乏情感、深度、质感和浪漫。在 OpenAI DALL-E 和 Stable Diffusion 出现之前，我们似乎还需要很多年才能达到我想要的真实体验水平。它们颠覆了游戏规则，这感觉就像我们已经在几个月内达到了 PS4 的图形水平。Midjourney 将我们带入了人工智能可以实现的全新现实主义领域，这促使我创建了自己标志性风格，利用人工智能玩转时间。我选择曼德拉效应来更好地解释这一点。对于那些不知道曼德拉效应是什么的人来说，在流行阴谋论中，它被认为是时间线发生变化，并且只有部分人记得我们曾经处于正确的时间线上。其中一个著名例子来自迪士尼经典电影《白雪公主》中的邪恶皇后，她看着她的魔镜说：“镜子啊镜子，请告诉我谁最美丽。”然而，这并不是真正的台词，实际上它应该是墙上的魔镜。有些人会争辩说，就算它不是真的，它一直是广为流传的台词。因此，我通过将现代标志放置在错误时代， 具体来说，就是文艺复兴时期和文艺复兴风格杰作中进行转换，让观众质疑这些品牌是否始终存在于历史上。我想影响观众的记忆，并让他们质疑现实的同时，探讨对于消费主义的看法。通过我对人工智能的探索和创作这些画作，我获得 Complex、Hypebeast 等主流媒体机构以及其他社交媒体平台广泛关注并走红网络。很明显，大多数看过我的作品也都想拥有这些出现在人工智能油画中的运动服。当时 Midjourney 已经达到了我可以使用提示接近真实照片及真实感的水平，但每件作品仍需要使用3种不同类型 AI 工具进行完善处理，再加上 Photoshop 的后期制作。凭借我的背景，它使我更容易实现我所寻找的目标。我颠覆了曼德拉效应，创造出具有文艺复兴精髓的现代服装。我利用我在文艺复兴时期的建筑、宗教、纺织品、染料的使用等方面的知识，来实现了这些造型，并讲述了一个故事。如果文艺复兴时期的人们能够看到我们这些未来人现在的样子，他们会认出一些物品或风格，但也融合了本世纪的概念纺织品，以实现文艺复兴时期未见的新面貌。这引起了许多追随者的共鸣，我的帖子广为传播，并被 Vogue 杂志报道。然而，它也有它的缺陷，因为许多知名设计师开始尝试使用人工智能模仿我发布的任何新概念。人工智能是抄袭这一流行论调是不正确的，复制的是人类，而且永远都是。机器仍然根据人工输入进行操作，这是一种协作关系。同时，我很高兴我启发了许多人，在看到通过我的工作可以做到什么后，许多人首次尝试使用人工智能技术进行创作，甚至那些处于顶峰领域中的专业设计师也受到启发。我已经成为主流采用人工智能的推动力之一，这感觉令人难以置信。人工智能对可持续发展也有巨大的积极意义。我们可以创建我们脑海中概念的 AI 逼真版本，这有助于减少材料浪费。在大多数情况下，人工智能还可以通过不到1个小时的时间，让专业的人工智能艺术家准备好编辑，从而降低能源消耗。而创建3D 模型可能需要数小时或数天才能完成，并且结果还无法达到通过 AI 技术所取得的那样逼真。此外，我相信时尚与区块链技术 NFTs 的融合可以确定每件作品的绝对来源，减少快消品、一次性时尚的生产。限量版或独一无二的作品可以作为艺术品来珍藏，就像安迪·沃霍尔 （Andy Warhol） 或班克西 （Banksy） 等著名艺术家创作的作品一样。我选择采用班克西式方法来为我的作品营造神秘感，并反映了更深层次意义上的人工智能技术本身的神秘感。最终决定焦点究竟是哪个，是否是艺术家，还是他所使用之 AI， 取决于观察者自己。谢谢你们，请去亲身体验一下人工智能技术吧。